because it was interesting. It was electrifying, you know, like, because I think I went home once and I said, wow, nothing changed in a year. Like I went away for a year, I
Oh,
came back and nothing really changed, you know?
that's right. It's like a time warp, right?
Yeah, and I was like, wow, there's so much happened in the last year that I
Yeah.
couldn't even explain to most people. They're like, because China was still not, it was getting there, right? It
Yeah.
was 2007, 2008, you know, right before the Olympics. They're like, oh, where do you live there? Do you live in a, like, I'm like, what?
Welcome, Avram, to the studio. You had a long flight here, so welcome to Los Angeles.
Thanks, Amar. Thanks for having me.
So you just flew in from Singapore, right?
Right.
How long's the flight?
Depends on which direction you take. If you take it direct, maybe 15. I took the little longer way through Japan, like 18, 19 hours.
Is that a cheaper ticket?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Avram, you're okay. So you've been living in Singapore for how long?
Just 2 years, just about over 2 years, right before COVID hit.
Just before COVID hit?
Yeah, I moved there right before COVID.
So how was that going to a new? Have you ever been there before?
Yeah, I traveled there, but we moved the whole family there, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be our home base, our new home base. I'm going to live near the airport, you know, just so I can continue to travel a lot. And it was like December 2019, and then, yeah, I didn't do much traveling.
You didn't. You enjoyed the house view.
That's right, the balcony view, the island vibe.
Were you fixing stuff around your house, or was it just?
No, it was a rental, so we didn't fix anything. We just kind of moved there and like, oh, quarantine.
What made you move to Singapore? Out of all the places you could have moved to, why did you pick that place?
Oh, wow. I got exposed to it from, I did an MBA down there, like an executive program, and I started to notice that I had a lot of friends down there, and there was this huge entrepreneurial ecosystem there, and nice weather all year round. I grew up in South Florida mostly, so I thought, you know, I'm not a real big fan of winter. I was living in China for 13 years as an expat.
So prior to that, you went to China.
Yeah, I was in Beijing, Shanghai, and so I thought, you know, I need kind of, you know, like island vibes. I like warm weather, and you know, Singapore being on the equator, I thought,
yeah,
you know.
So do they speak English over there?
Everything. They speak a bunch of languages. That's why I really liked it, because there's a huge dynamic culture. There's Chinese, there's Indian, there's different parts of dialects, different Chinese dialects. There's just a big melting pot of different races that live there. That's what drew me.
So it's like how I feel in Los Angeles, right? Like there's a mixture of people, and you just kind of fit in.
Yeah, they accept. You know, they're accepting of different cultures.
Do you speak any other languages?
I do. No, well, now I speak Chinese.
Oh, you speak Chinese too?
Yeah. Well, I learned when I moved there.
So okay, so you're in Singapore. So prior to that, you were in China, right?
Yeah.
How did you end up in China? But you're originally from Florida.
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
We might have skipped, you know, like I actually was born in France.
You were born in France?
Yeah, I was born in France. We lived in the south of France till I was about 8, and then we moved to Florida because my grandparents lived in South Florida, and then so I technically grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
But and then I moved. I wanted to become an expat, like an expatriate. I wanted to go work overseas and go explore the world. And I realized nobody wanted to hire me from Florida, so I decided to go and learn, do like a 1-year program in China. I just like packed up my stuff, sold all my stuff, moved out there for a year to learn Chinese.
And how old were you when you were doing this?
20. I left in 26. Yeah, I was 26.
You were 20. So you weren't married, obviously, at that point, right?
No.
So you just packed up your stuff. You have a little bit of savings.
Sort of.
So
Yeah.
okay, so you went completely empty pockets.
That's why I had to sell all my stuff.
Okay. So you just took off and you just turned up in China.
Yeah, I found a program. I can go learn Chinese for like a year. You know, I had a big going away party, and I said, "All right, I'll be back in a year," and then.
So you just ended up staying?
Yeah.
So when you were there, so now adjusting to the normal life, so you said it's Florida life, China life. What'd you like about it?
Oh, that was a crazy. Oh wow! I remember. I think I was landing. I know the date I landed. March 3rd, 2007. I was landing into Beijing. It was like a very gray, snowy day, and I looked out the window and I'm like, man, what did I sign up for? and nobody speaks. I mean, at the time I thought, I only went to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, it's got to be, about the same.
Yeah.
No, it was very different.
What was it?
It was just different. Everything was different. English was not very, not like ubiquitous. Like in Hong Kong, everybody spoke English because of the British Empire. And I didn't know how to get anywhere. I had to kind of ask my friends, how do I tell the taxi driver where to go? How do I order food? I had a roommate who was an American through this Chinese school program.
Yeah.
He was I was 26, he was 19. It was interesting.
So what did you start doing? So how did you figure out stuff? Like you just started like, how do you say this in Chinese? Like what
you kind of figured out. Well, you're going to school, so they teach you for like fundamentals. It's like you're a kindergartner. Like you're going through the whole, how to pronounce these phonetics. Like you would read the phonetic version of the simplified Chinese. Like you're in a group of all international students, like 20 or 30 of them, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun, but
right? I
was a little older than the rest of them. They were like, 18, 19, 20, 21. I was like, I'm 26. There was one guy that was older. He was like 30.
so he was just stuck there, right?
I think he sold something. He sold a business, and he's like, I'm going to go learn Chinese.
Yeah.
It was insane because it was right before the Olympics. Remember, like the Olympics was in 2008.
Yeah.
And they had, the city was going through this transformation, so we moved like 1 year before the Olympics. So like the city was changing. There were all these new places that were opening. They were cleaning up everything, getting ready for the Olympics, which was pretty awesome to be there for that.
So you're there. You're seeing all these changes around you. You're learning the language at this point, or learning the basics of the language.
Right.
What made you decide to stay? Because were you not homesick? Was your
not
family,
really?
Parents?
You miss it. There's like this curve, right? And I just thought, hey, there's so much excitement here, And I was like, oh yeah, you miss home. You talk to all your friends, and you go back. What did I go back? No, friends came to visit.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of home life, I moved there with 2 suitcases filled with who knows what, like granola bars. I think I even brought. I remember now. And now you kind of just, you stay because it was interesting. It was electrifying, because I think I went home once and I was like, wow, nothing changed in a year. Like I went away for a year. I came back and nothing really changed,
That's right. It's like a time warp, right?
Yeah. And I was like, wow, there's so much happened in the last year that I couldn't even explain to most people. They're like, because China was still not, it was getting there, right?
Yeah.
It was 2007, 2008, right before the Olympics. They're like, oh, where do you live there? Do you live in where? I'm like, what? Do you live on the river? Like, do you eat cockroaches? I was like, what? Like, what kind of questions are these? No, this is a huge city. It's like 25 million people, high rises, like transportation. Like it was nothing that I've ever seen before. Wow. It was pretty insane.
Okay, so you're there, you're just staying, it's the world has changed here, but not back at home. So you're in that time warp.
Yeah.
So now you're saying, well, life is more exciting here. Why the heck would I go back? Is your family not encouraging you to go back?
Well, not really.
They were glad you were gone?
Like, I think my brother and dad, they were like, well, we got a cat, you're allergic. Don't come back.
Is that what it was?
Well, I came back once. I was like, I saw something run by. I'm like, what was that? Like, oh, we got a cat. I'm like, but I'm allergic.
That replaced you?
Too bad.
So you're just exploring then, right?
Yeah, seeing new things, learning new languages, learning about new foods that you typically wouldn't find. You probably find it more in California, not in Florida.
Did you expect to be there? You said 12 years, right?
13.
Did you expect to be there that long?
No.
What was your plan of how long to be there?
I remember saying to myself, 5 years max. Well, I got a job. So because I was already in the corporate world, when I quit my job, sold everything, moved to China, I got introduced to a logistics company, a large one.
Yeah.
And because I had worked for this big corporate retailer, and then kind of introduction, like, hey, I need something to do. I'm tired of studying.
Yeah.
Like, I can't study. I'm 20. Like, I already did college. Like, I don't want to study Chinese all day.
Yeah.
And so they offered me an internship for a very low pay. But yeah, I took it because I wanted something to do. And logistics.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what that is. I had no idea what it was. And that is one, to answer your question, that's probably what had me staying. Well, I was legally allowed to stay as an employee because they kicked all the students out right before the Olympics.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah. So I was kind of lucky. I was like, oh, I got this work pass now. I can stay.
Yeah.
Enjoy the Olympics.
So, okay. So now with the language, how do you pick up the language?
Oh, you're still learning. I'm still learning. Well, I'll pick up newer. Like today, I think I learned a new word because I never heard that word before.
Do you learn the bad words first?
Yeah, everybody does. Everybody does. That was the first thing you pick up right away. Yeah. And no, you learn phonetics and you learn simple words. So you're speaking like a kindergartner. Like your Chinese is basic. You don't understand underlying meanings, because they have a lot of like slang, underlying meanings. Yeah. And you pick this up as you go, or if you're in the workplace, it's a little easier.
So were the people like friendly to you?
Yeah.
Like it was a friendly place. Everybody's.
Yeah, I mean, it was super friendly. I mean, they were welcoming to foreigners.
You consider yourself like obviously? Would you consider yourself American? Or
they consider us as foreigners.
Oh, okay. What would you consider yourself? Would it be French? Were you born in France?
I was, but I was never.
You never call yourself French? Okay.
I was always a U.S. citizen.
You were always
like my dad's American. He's like, no.
Well,
because actually you couldn't name your kids at the time. I think in the early '80s you couldn't name your kids. You had to pick out of a French book, and it had to be like the French names.
Is that
He's like, well, I'm not naming him any of these French names. I want him, so it's like just bypassed.
So you were almost a Pierre.
Yeah, I was almost a Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Paul.
Jean-Paul, Jean-Pierre, Jean-Luc.
So now you're there, right? Like, at what point, like, do you think you're staying there forever? Because obviously 13 years is a long time. Like,
I wanted to leave. Like, there were so many times I wanted to leave, but either a really good job came up, and I was like, man, I really wanted to go check out Shanghai, and I had 2 job offers there. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go, and this one paid really well. I was like, all right, let me go do that. Tired of being the student transient, I wanted to go see what Shanghai was about.
Yeah.
So I went there, took a job, and like the first few years of any job, I think like you're excited, like something new. You're meeting new people, you're meeting new friends. Like you wind up exploring new things, and then I think at that time I met my wife a year later, or so my now wife.
Okay. So
I was already in China for like 4 years.
Okay.
And and it's just like things just happen. You stay, you get a promotion. I started to study, so I'm like, I don't want a new job while I'm studying for an MBA, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to keep the job I have now.
Yeah. But did that feel like home to you?
No, it never felt like home. It was
what was home? Home was Florida?
Yeah, I guess so.
Like you feel like I feel more peaceful in America, or I feel more comfortable in.
It's always nice to land back. I'm always happy. I think a lot of expats have the same feeling. Like I a few American buddies, it's always nice to go back and I'm home now. No matter what city you arrive in, there's this smell. Like even like arriving in Guam. I don't know if you've ever been to Guam.
No.
But Guam's like.
Wow, you travel a lot of places.
I used to, yeah. Okay. Before COVID, I used to go on holiday. Guam is like smells like America. You land, you're like, oh wow, and it's like. It's like a little Hawaii. It's like Homeland Security, everything. It's just America. Taco Bell, like Panda Express. It's all in Guam.
Everything's there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you don't feel like home there. So is that why Singapore? Like, where did that come into your mind? Like, when did you decide, like, time to leave Shanghai or China and I'm going to Singapore? Where did that come into your mind?
I think I wanted to move to Singapore for a really long time. It's just like something that was on my to-do list.
Yeah.
I tend to, I realized
you have a bucket
recently,
list?
yeah. I realized that recently that I usually like fulfill what I want. Maybe not like right away, but I fulfill the checkbox.
Yeah.
It was something that I wanted to do even when like for a while. and it just never had the opportunity. Couldn't get a job there. I did my MBA with two schools, like at UCLA and a Singapore school, and I said, "Oh, this is cool. I'm getting all these new friends here. Nice weather," and I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I kind of like put myself there? Yeah. So
you already had it in the back of your mind, is like,
yeah, the seed was planted like who knows when, years ago, that I wanted to live there, just because, warm climate, nice weather, great place to travel from.
How's the cost of living?
Not good.
Oh, it's
high. It's high.
It's high?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think it was rated like one of the most expensive countries to live in. It's at least in the top 5.
What would you compare it to, like over here, like where we are? Is it like a New York? Is it a Los Angeles? Is it
probably like a New York or Hawaii?
It's like a Hawaii? Oh, that's really expensive then.
It's kind of Hawaii-ish. Things are... Well, it depends on what you're looking at, right? Shanghai is also expensive, but services are not.
Got it.
But services in Singapore are like normal. I mean, but you're like, oh wow, that's different, But then there's other items like public transportation is very affordable. Like hawker centers is like they're always on the food, like there's always on these international food travel programs. Hawker centers are like huge food courts in different districts, right? And you can find anything you want: Western food, Chinese food, Indonesian food, Indian food, desserts, snacks, and they're very affordable. And that's the affordable part.
Okay, so you're in Singapore then. So you turn up there, take your family there, pack your stuff, sell everything again. Right?
No, I moved some of it. We threw out a lot of stuff. We threw out a lot of stuff, and then we moved down.
So you move your family there, and you say, "This is the place for us. This is where I want to be."
Yeah, for the immediate. I mean, let's see how things
go. For the short term,
for the medium term, I figured. For the medium term, let's see how this goes. Make sure the wife is happy.
Does she like it then?
I think so. I noticed that she's happy in warm weather. Like she's happier. She's a happy person, but warm weather, it always brings out. We traveled to Thailand a lot when we were dating before we got married. We were always in Thailand. We even got married in Thailand.
Oh wow.
We had the wedding reception in Thailand. So that's somewhere that we always thought, like we should go move to a warmer place. So I'm going to travel anyway.
You didn't say move to Thailand?
No.
Or were you throwing darts at a wall?
I was looking for like a place, that's like, not saying that Thailand wouldn't be a great place to live either, but it was just more, there were just more of that, because also I was starting a company, and there's a good entrepreneurial ecosystem there, and they had a lot of there's more attraction for entrepreneurs to go there because it's a hub, right? And for travel, and so it's easy to jump anywhere. You want to go to New York now, direct flight, like 18 hours, but direct flight. You can go anywhere. Like you can go to Bali, it's 2 hours. Go to Thailand, 2 hours. Like you can go anywhere you want from this amazing hub that's warm all year round.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for?
But being in Singapore, like with this lockdown, right? So you just got there and the place gets locked down.
Pretty much, like 3 months after, yeah.
So do you get to explore much, or are you just getting excited about seeing the place now? Because we saw each other a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Right? While COVID was
right when I had moved there, I just we were just fresh, like just moved there, trying to figure out the lay of the land. How do you do this? And I think when the lockdown happened, we were like, okay, well, we had a kid. The second daughter was born there right at the start of COVID, like mid-Feb. We're like, oh, great. And then, but Singapore was really good for a while. I mean, there was COVID going on everywhere, and they had to kind of lock down the whole country. So
the country was safe.
It was super safe, and they would open up internally. So like we got to explore lots of Singapore. Like we'd do staycations, we'd go to the zoo, go check out things that we never really, we would have seen them, but not in, like every weekend. What do you do? I don't know what's open. You know, like, can we sit with 5 people? They have people restrictions. How many people can sit at a table during the height? You know, maybe you can only dine with 2 people or dine with 5 people or no dining.
They don't have the process that we have here. We put a mask in to walk in. We sit down next to 5 people who are sitting next to us and take the masks off.
Well, sort of. Now it doesn't matter. Now they're opened up, you know, pretty much. But they were trying to go with the flow. It's hard to control, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of politics, you know, as with any country. And we're guests, so we just follow the rules and go along. You know, it's a nice place to spend COVID. Yeah, you know, safe and nice. And
so like with the kids, then, like moving kids around, like that's a tricky spot, right? Like of where you want to raise them, and that's a tough thing, right?
Yeah.
How do you figure out which place is right?
We don't know.
Oh,
I mean, that would be a great place, but you know, we have to. You know, there's a lot of. It's like foreigners moving to the United States, right? You have to go through a process, and that process might take some time, and you know, we don't know yet if we're going to wind up being legally to be, you know, stay there as you know. Or you know, or otherwise. Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah. It's kind of in the air. We got about another year of, but we're working on it.
So what about like learning the school systems? Like obviously, like it's hard for me to figure out the school systems in America, and I speak English. Like where do you put your kids in kindergarten, and do you do kindergarten and first grade and all that?
Yeah, I don't know. My wife takes care of it. Okay. She does a lot of research. It's complicated. Yeah. There's places for international students, and then there's places for locals. So it depends on, like, if you get their version of a green card, you can go to local schools. But there's like this weird tier system. You know, passport holders first, and then the green card holders second, and then if you lived within a certain kilometer, like you know, certain distance away from the school, and if your parents or sister or brother or siblings went there, like there's all these, you know, we're probably at the bottom of the list for any school. So we gotta see. We don't know yet. They're still not in primary school yet. Okay, so we still got a year or less than a year, but we'll figure it out.
So you've traveled around a lot, right? So it's like also like an addiction, right? Like you want to.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I was so bummed during COVID. I was like, man. What am I doing now? Thank God all my statuses got extended, right?
But you like this is like you get to explore the world. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, I think
cool.
I've been traveling since I was like 6 months old.
Because especially when it starts in France, that's where it began?
Yeah. We used to fly Nice to Miami on Pan Am. I don't know if anybody still remembers that airline, but yeah, we used to fly, you know, on Pan Am in the 80s.
The one that blew up, right?
Yeah, well, no,
well, one of them did.
No. That's when that was towards the end of that corporation. Yeah, but yeah, we used to fly to Florida all the time to see my grandparents. We were flying around.
So did your parents have the travel bug too?
Probably. My dad, I mean, he was like New York. He grew up in New York, and then he moved. I think he just like packed up and left. That sounds very similar. Actually.
Yeah, actually, that's reminding me of a story you just told me 5 minutes ago.
He packed up and left, and he moved to the UK. He moved to London. Yeah. You know, didn't have anything, just sold all his stuff, and then he went to New York. That's interesting, actually.
So with your dad traveling around, what was he doing? Like, what was his career?
He was in the music industry.
Was he?
Yeah, even in New York, I think he was in the music industry, and then I think he was.
What was he doing in the music industry?
He was a composer. I mean, he used to write music. You know, I think he did one title track for one of the Elvis's movie. I don't know. Elvis had like 50 movies. I don't know. I never even seen the movie, but it was like the Speedway.
Okay.
Speedway? Yeah, Speedway. You know, he used to write music, and then I guess he went to London. I don't remember exactly why he went to London, and he wound up in Italy.
So he went to London, ends up in Italy.
Well, I think he lived in Paris, and then he went to Italy, and then my mom's Chinese, and they had moved from Hong Kong, and they opened up a bunch of Chinese restaurants in Milan. Okay. My dad really liked Chinese food, and then he really liked the waitress, and then voila.
Okay, so your dad is doing the same thing as you, right?
Oh, wow, that's strange. Yeah, but yeah.
That's pretty coincidental that your dad is traveling. So your wife didn't work at a Chinese restaurant either, right?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, so you ended the chain. Okay,
man.
so your dad is moving around. So like with your dad, like was he telling you like to what career to get into?
Never.
You didn't think you would get into music, or you thought you would get into music
No,
too?
we did music classes when we were young, but no, never. We just kind of, he's very laissez-faire, you know, like, hey, whatever you want to do, you know, enjoy, whatever you do, you know, never really, you know, I went to school, I decided I want to study business, and then I was like, oh, international business, and I was like, oh, what's an expat? I want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I just kind of did my own thing and I kind of figured it out on my own, you know, like, I really like this. So I never had any pressure from the family. Oh, you should do this. Oh, you should study that. Or, you know, like we're kind of like, me and my brother were kind of you know, like, hey, you do this, you do whatever you want. Well, do what makes you happy, you know, and if you're happy.
Free-spirited.
Yeah. Well, he's a musician, my dad. So he's, you know, free-spirited already.
So like that experience, like a lot of people, like when you see people like nowadays, a lot of people aren't brave enough to even make that challenge of let me go and travel around the world or let me go to see different destinations. A lot of people in America never leave anywhere.
That's true.
And you don't like, do you feel like it's just because there's so much in America, or do you feel like it's like just open-mindedness?
I think you don't know what you don't know. I guess I grew up overseas, so I kind of traveled. You know, I did go to, like, I think I went to Hong Kong once in like 1985. Yeah. I have very blip memories of that. But we just traveled every year. You know, either we went to go see family in Canada, or you know, or we just always traveled. And I think I guess it really depends on, you know, like what your interests are. You know, I told people I was going to move to China. They looked at me like I was insane, like completely insane. They're like, why? I remember one guy's like, why would you want to do that?
Don't do it. I'm going to save you. I'm going to save you.
I was like, why not? You know, it sounds like something fun. It's only a year anyways. I was like, hey, I'll come back. You know, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just get another job. Yeah. Right?
Well, they might keep you over there for 13 years. Then let you out.
Yeah. Well, it was my choice, mostly. To stay there for 13 years.
So now with your career, like you're involved in tech, right? So coding and this type of stuff, like building softwares, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So with that, like, how did that come about to you? Like, where did the idea come into you?
The idea came probably from the MBA. I really liked the entrepreneur class. I liked it so much that I took it as an audit, you know, because you could take classes for free after you graduate. Yeah. So I was like, I liked that class so much because it opened me up to this world that I never understood, never really realized was there. Yeah. And the seed was planted, and I was one of the younger guys in that cohort. Like the average age was 40. There were guys that were like successful CEOs or ex-CEOs or, you know, really successful entrepreneurs that were just looking for, you know, expanding their horizons. And I made friends with some of them, and they really, you know, I pitched them something like, hey, what do you think what if I wanted to do this, or what if I wanted to do that? And they kind of like, you know, well, you know, guide you a little bit. And I thought about it more and more. And then I think there was like an aha moment once, and I realized that something was super inefficient and I wanted to change it. And I was already passionate about technology, and I really know my industry, right? I wouldn't, you know, like, you know, they tell you, you know, in this way, like, you have a higher chance of success if you start a company in a domain that you're already in. Like, you know, so I was like, okay, maybe I line it up. It just kind of, it kind of snowballed. And I decided one day, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this now. With the support of my significant other, right? You need that, otherwise, you know, you're done for. You know, and then and I just kind of kept on going.
But how did you learn? Like, you know, people say, "Hey, I'm going to start programming and stuff." How do you learn all this stuff?
Well, I'm not really doing the programming, but
you put it together, right? And that's impressive by itself, because where the heck do people begin?
A lot of help. A lot of good advisors, mentors, friends. You use your network. I mean, you have to have a network. And I started asking a lot of questions, probably a lot of basic questions that you know, but if you don't know what you don't know, right? I thought, wow, this is very complicated. And then all of a sudden I had a real appreciation of everything that was in my iPhone. I was like, wow, all these apps are super complicated. You know, you fix something, you break everything else. You know, I didn't realize how much went into it until I started, and then I started to really like, I understand the process, and we have a team, and everybody has their jobs, and you kind of hopefully expand from there.
Yeah. So, okay. So like with this tech industry, right? Like people are going around, there's a lot of venture capitalists and people investing in stuff.
Right.
Like how does the system work?
I'm still trying to figure that out. It's
because it's a complicated system. I've been on phone calls with these investors and VCs and like it confuses the hell out of me.
It depends on the level of investors. I guess they, what they always tell you, they said, like, when you're first starting out, you usually go to the 3 Fs. And I'm like, who are the 3 Fs? They're like, well, friends, family, and fools. I'm like, oh. So apparently they've changed it around. They made it more PC now. It's like friends, family, fans. I was like, oh, okay, that works. But so like you usually go to the 3 Fs first.
Yeah.
And it's just random. It was just talking to friends or talking to people. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to go do this, and do that. And they're like, hey, you want help? I'm like, yeah, maybe. Yeah. What if I wanted to give you money? Let me go find out how to deal with that. Like you don't know. And I'm like, man, I heard about all these, what these different notes that you can give out. And it's like using your network, talking to people that have been there or done that or have been successful entrepreneurs, ask them how to manage this. How do you deal with this? Read the books. There's books on, how to, startups, and there's a lot of material out there. I think even more so now. Now you got YouTube. And you got a wealth of information at your fingertips.
And the software you've developed is pretty impressive. Like what you've shown me, like it's like, I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. Like I haven't seen like something like that, and you're telling me the short amount of time that you've done that. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of work. I mean, I was asked to come in and speak to the entrepreneur cohort of the university about, being a founder and how to, what to expect. And I give these guys I give them a real, I don't sugarcoat anything. And I'm like,
you give them the Bible speech.
Yeah. And a lot of them are like, oh my God, thank you so much. You really, we really learned a lot. I'm like, oh, cool. I hope somebody got something from it, right?
It helps people, right?
I hope so. Or scared them off. Either way, I'm helping them. So it's a journey.
Yes.
No matter what. I think anybody starting anything, it's a journey.
Elbow grease too, right?
A lot of elbow grease. You're going to, I told them, I was like, you're going to work harder than you ever worked in your life. But the difference is, or the difference should be, that you really enjoy what you do.
That's exactly
right. And I enjoy it every day. I wake up, I'm like super stoked. It's not like a few jobs ago, I was like, oh my God, I can't stand this place. I want to leave. I'm so unhappy,
So I just want to leave because I like traveling, not because I want to leave because of my job.
Well, yeah. I think somebody called me Mr. Vacation at one point. Yeah, I think one boss, he was like, Mr. Vacation. I'm like, oh, that's not a good sign. But, I wasn't interested because, at some point you want to make things more efficient, or you want to try things and you're always hitting a roadblock. So at one point, when do you, so I figured, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. Yeah.
But are you glad that you started a lot of this stuff when you were younger, right? Which gave you a chance to make mistakes, or even the traveling portion, you did it while you were younger, where you could be more freer when more responsibility comes on you.
Yeah, starting a family and all that stuff. I guess I look at other friends. They have they have families. I mean, they already have teenagers or guys going to college, and we're all the same age. I'm like, oh wow, you guys get to go have fun. I'm doing a lot of baby stuff, and they're like, well, when you were out partying, I was doing the baby stuff. I was like, you're right. Enjoy.
Okay, with the software and stuff, so you're talking at some schools and stuff, and you're telling people, trying to tell them what we need to do or how to progress. It's just trying to encourage people, right?
I encourage them to make the right decision. I mean, I know the professors, he's like an entrepreneurial, senior guy, and makes investments too. He teaches this whole entrepreneurship class, and he asked me twice to come in. I was like, okay, the second one, all right. So the first speech a couple years ago wasn't that bad, and then there was COVID, and then he asked me to come in again. So I give them the reality, a lot of...
Yeah. It's not just turn up and it arrives.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but you're going to enjoy it, or you should enjoy it.
Yes, love what you do.
And you love what you do, and I think that's that's one of the secret sauces, maybe, to, you know.
I think sometimes people go for the golden handcuffs, you know, and you get paid a lot, and then all of a sudden you're saying, "Oh, well, I'm doing."
Nothing wrong with that either. It depends on what you want, you know. I think there was a mentor of mine that said it right. That's what kind of gave me the last push. He's like, well, you know, you go to all these old folks' homes, you know, and people on their deathbed, you know, you ask them, you know, what, you know, they always say what they wish they could have done or what they regret, you know. So how do you want to feel about this idea you have? Do you want to like regret it later on, or you just want to give it a go? Yeah. And I said, you know what, you're right. I'm going to give it a go.
That's exactly right.
And thanks for your support. And you know, it really opened up that side of the brain. I was like, all right, I think it's time to give it a go. Yeah. And what's the worst that could happen? You get a job. Yeah. You know, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. You know? So, okay, so after let's just say like your thing blows up, it's fantastic. What happens once you achieve the goal that you're going for? Like, what's the next thing you go for?
Oh, I think it's a bug. I think it's going to be probably something else, you know.
Like solving another problem?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, you got it.
Because you're a problem solver.
Apparently so. No, I think it would probably be solving another problem or helping other people solve their problems, or give free advice now, because other people gave me free advice. That's and people ask me all the time, like, oh, I need help with this, and this. I'm like, oh, no, you should watch out. You should do this. Where's your other paperwork? Like, what paperwork? Oh, you need to look at that. Like, you know, but this is what was handed down to me too. It's like kind of like a pay it forward.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You're paying it forward. I'm happy to do it. Other people helped me. They didn't have to.
That's right.
Right? They didn't have to give me any advice. They said, no, that's a terrible idea. Don't do anything. You know, stick with your job. You know, nobody really said that, but like they could have, right? Yeah. So I think I'm blessed that I ran into those people and they helped me out. And some of them are still, you know, we're good friends. Yeah, it's a journey, and I think it's going to be a continuous journey. It's fun. If it blows up and it does really well, maybe I'll take a short vacation somewhere.
Another one?
I haven't been on vacation in a while. That's one of the pitfalls of starting your own thing. Yeah. You know, there is no vacation.
That's right.
You're 24/7, so probably a vacation, but that won't last long.
Yeah, and it's like, I think what we were talking about earlier is like, it's like chasing it, right? Like the chase, for me anyway, the chase was always fun. It's like when you get the bone, you say, what do I do with it? Do I bury it in the ground and go find another one?
I don't know. It was a good question. I think I would relax for a little bit, but I don't think I could sit still for too long. You know, I'd want to go do something else because, as you pointed out, I like to solve problems, which I really do. I really like to solve problems, and we'll see. I mean, I'll look back on this, you know, in a year, 2, 3, 4, hopefully not too long, but, you know, be like, oh, man, I was right, or he was right, or we were right.
Yes. Avram, I want to thank you very much for coming in. I know it's late, so I'm going to let you go to bed.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, and it's been very insightful, and thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.